My name is Andrew Collins. I live in Cupar in Fife. I've been here for just over 3 years now. Before that I used to live in Buckinghamshire and Oxfordshire, and I've moved to Scotland for various reasons. I have a small company. I work from home, so I can work anywhere I like. I was able to move my work from England to Scotland without a problem. I have a family, a wife, 2 daughters, 14 and 12, who are enjoying life at Belbaxter School. So we're very happy here, very settled. I was quite happy to bring up my children in England, in the Shires. But then, at some point that started to change, and I started to worry about the country I was in. It was Maggie Thatcher that caused me, not her policies so much, but just the way they were implemented. The sight of policemen beating up the miners on the television makes pretty unpleasant viewing, and there was no reason for that. There was no need to be as brutal as that administration was. So that was the first thing that made me uneasy, and perhaps things weren't all quite as rosy as I thought they were. And of course, at some point I've got 2 daughters and I have to worry about their future. But the second serious problem was the Iraq War. I paid close attention to that because I couldn't see why on earth we were going in there, other than the obvious reasons to get our hands on the oil. Westminster is a rotten parliament. It is rotten, and it's rotten when you think about it. It's rotten for various reasons. It's the oldest parliament in the world, which you can be proud of, but actually they should be ashamed of it because it hasn't changed in so many years, hundreds of years, and it's an antiquated voting system, and that I found that deeply frustrating. I've been a Green all my life. I was brought up in the country and I love the countryside, and it really depresses me to see all the places I used to play when I was a child being built on. We decided that enough was enough, that I did not want my girls to be in England as their home, in inverted commas. I wanted them to be somewhere where they felt confident that the government was going to do at least something vaguely sensible for the people in the country. I mean, what Westminster is a government of by the rich for the rich, and they really don't care about the poor or the disadvantaged. And although I'm fairly wealthy myself, not wealthy, but I'm comfortably off, you can't predict the future, and the government in Westminster is busily dismantling both under Tory and Labour, dismantling the welfare system that we have. They're privatising the health service, slowly but surely. And it wasn't a country that I wanted to bring my children up in anymore. I have no connection with Scotland. The nearest connection I have to Scotland is my mother was a Geordie, and I have been up to Newcastle occasionally in my youth. I looked at what was going on in Scotland. I learnt about the Scottish Parliament and how it was elected, and just generally looked at the news and things. And it was clear that the Scottish people are not very different to the English, but there's a different culture up here. And I've certainly been aware of that when we've been up here. We lived in a town in England which is a very similar size to the one we live in now, in Cupar in Fife. It was Wallingford in Oxfordshire. The 2 towns are almost similar. And I knew, in that town, I knew a few people in that town. But since I've been in Cupar, and I've only been here 3 years, I was there for sort of 50 years, I know a lot more people in Cupar than I knew there, and that's because there's more of a community spirit up here than there is down there. My family do feel Scottish. If you ask my daughter, she'll say, yes, I'm Scottish, and she's only been here 3 years. We feel at home here. The girls have settled into school really well. We were worried about it. You do worry about it. You hear these stories of, these Scottish, when you're down south, you hear the story of the Scottish, we call blimey, you won't understand a word they say, and they'll treat you as foreigners, but this is just nonsense. The Scottish are lovely people. And the girls settled in within a week, within a week. And they both say the schools up here are better than the ones they had down south. And we were in quite a nice area. We weren't in one of the bad areas of schooling. We were in quite a posh area in Oxfordshire. Oh, there's definitely a brighter future for Scotland. I think the way it's been portrayed in the media is just completely wrong. Scotland has always been and will always be a successful nation. What's dragging it down is the rest of the UK and the Westminster Parliament. And I think that Scots can show the way. As an independent country, we can run a proper social democratic country that looks after its people, that cares. Because we do care, you know. I mean, I know that now. I've been here 3 years. Scots do care about other Scots. That does, you know. I don't want to run the English down because I've got English relatives. Most of my family is English, and I'm English. And the English and Scots don't differ that much. But I don't think that there's not that sense of community down there, and it's been destroyed. I was a Yes Scotland person before Yes Scotland existed, as I've already explained. I moved to Scotland 3 years ago, assuming that the Scots would vote for independence, because why wouldn't they? One of the confusions I've had since I've been here is talking to people about independence, as I have been occasionally, is that why a lot of people are saying they're going to vote no, and I'm starting to get to grips with that now, and it's because they've just been fed nonsense. When you ask them, I spoke to someone just 2 or 3 days ago, and I said to them, why are you thinking of voting no? And they said, oh, because Scotland doesn't have enough. It's not big enough to cope. If the banks had gone bust and we'd been independent, we would have been bankrupt. Now we all know that's nonsense for a number of reasons, and where do they get these things from? And obviously the media have a part to play in that. And I think a lot of people out there in the world forget that the media are owned by very rich people. And very rich people have a very rich people agenda. They don't care about the public. They care about their circulation, and they'll print all sorts of rubbish just to get the circulation up. But they have an agenda when it comes to politics. They want to keep the rich rich and the poor poor. That's the way they like it. And there's a very cosy relationship down in Westminster. We've discovered that over the recent years between the media, the London newspapers, and the politicians. And the Yes Scotland campaign do have an uphill struggle. I do find that there are some people who are really antagonistic towards the Yes campaign, even people you'd expect otherwise, people in the Green Party, for instance. And it's clear when you talk to them that they see the Yes Scotland campaign as the SNP and Braveheart, and it's still in their mind. They still see it as a nationalist, if you like, movement, and it certainly is not. No one could accuse me of being a Scottish nationalist. What it is, it's about governance, but they don't realise that yet. They still think that what they see, because they've been fed this by the media, is that we get an independent Scotland and we have King Alex Salmond as king, which is absolute drivel. But they still have that in their mind, and they need to understand that that's not the case. I seriously expect that as the Yes campaign gains ground, which it will, because people will hear the arguments, and I don't think there's any doubt that if people are given the real facts, they will vote yes. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind about that. I think there will be the odd few that have something serious to lose. For example, the people who work on Trident might have some reason for voting no. I think that'd be misplaced. Because there'll still be a navy in Scotland. All this talk of the English closing down the Scottish shipyards is just clearly nonsense. These lies will become more and more blatant the more that the Yes campaign picks up, and it won't be picked up by the media because they're on their side effectively, and they will stay on their side. So that's an uphill struggle that the Yes campaign have to go. And the only way we can deal with that is to educate people. By getting out there into communities and explaining to them that when people say to me, and someone said this to me, only a few weeks ago. In fact, my wife was talking to one of her cousins down in England, and she was saying, well, I don't want to have to take a passport when I come and visit you in Scotland, and you just, after a year, you have to ask yourself, why is this nonsense still going on? And we have to explain the facts to people. In their minds, most people who live in Scotland want an independent Scotland. They know that the Westminster Party is a disaster. They know that, but they've been fed this stuff. They've had Alistair standing up saying you can't have the pound. Well, Alistair Darling knows that's nonsense, and in fact he was asked 4 times on Newsnight to confirm that he would not let us have the pound, and of course he couldn't because he knows damn well it's more in the rest of the UK's interest to have the pound. With Scotland than it is in Scotland's interest. We could quite happily live with our own currency if we had to, but it makes sense obviously because of the cross-border trade to stick to the pound. I'm very positive about the Yes campaign. I think we will win. I think once people hear the arguments we will win, and I'm very positive about Scotland for the future. I have no doubts that my girls will consider this home and they'll stay here. You know, they may go off and work in Germany or somewhere for a while, but this will be home for them. And my wife is a lot younger than me, and you know, she will live a lot longer than I will, and you know, she'll obviously stay in Cupar. And you know, I'm now happy that they will want to come back and treat it as home.